surrounded by like the mountains, and everything's covered in the greenery, and there's clouds covering the peaks and everything. So everything is beautiful. Like you can look around and there's not like any eyesores whatsoever.
Welcome in and welcome back to the Chasing Wild podcast, your home for all the best content on conservation, wildlife, and adventure. We are your hosts, Jake Johnson, Dean Dudzik, and our mission is to bring the wild to you. Today, we have a special episode for you guys. Dean just got back from a trip to Peru. Just got back, three days ago?
Yeah, what's today? Wednesday. I
Today's
got back
Wednesday.
Monday,
Okay.
I think.
So
Yeah.
2 days back,
2
a couple
days.
days ago, you were in the Amazon rainforest. We're going to be
Yeah.
breaking down Dean's trip. So this is going to be a real instant reaction. We have yet to break it down with each other. So I'm going to be like the rest of the audience today, just kind of listening and asking questions to see how it was. But before we get into your trip, Dean, I wanted to ask you, how was your holiday season?
It was good, dude. I think the last episode we recorded and really last time we talked was a few weeks before Christmas.
Mhm.
So Jake and I haven't talked really since then. So
Yeah, it's
we're
been
catching
busy.
up in this episode too. Yeah, Christmas was really good. Just spent it at home with the family. I had the day off. Yeah, I had the day off work
Mhm.
on Christmas. So that was really nice. Got to spend some time with the family, and then I left for Peru, left the house at like 3 a.m. the morning after Christmas.
Wow, that's wild.
So
Right to it.
there was a quick turnaround, but the holidays were nice. How about yours, dude?
Yeah, and you got to spend the new year in Peru, which is pretty sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine was good too. Addison's first Christmas, so we had a lot of fun doing all of that. My first time having Christmas off in a while, again, because we're both zookeepers and, someone's got to be there to feed the animals, but fell on my days off this year, so we had a great time. Nice just connecting with family. And then since, New Year's Eve and New Year's Day were the same days as Christmas were, Tuesday, Wednesday, I had those
Oh
off as
yeah.
well. So that was really nice.
Where were you at for Christmas?
We do Christmas Eve at Maddie's parents, and then we do Christmas at my parents, and then
Okay.
New Year's Eve we just went to my parents' house and hung out, had some surf and turf, some good dinner, and just kept it easy. So took it easy. It was nothing crazy, but yeah, I was excited to hear, and I was jealous that I knew during the New Year's, I'm like, man, Dean's in Peru right now. I'm so curious like what he's doing at this moment, if they had anything,
Yeah.
but um just to start us off, I wanted to ask you, just as a whole, before we get into like, all the things you did,
Yeah.
instant reaction on your trip to, Peru as a whole, everything about it, just instant reaction.
It was great. I have no regrets for the trip.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing, um, the sort of the thing I'll say before we get into the trip is we were all sick at some point in the trip. So there was some adversity we faced throughout the trip, and that made things a little bit challenging at some points. But the big things that we had planned, we were able to hit in some sort of good health. So yeah, we were all sick at some point. Like I had a fever at some point. I was out for
That's
like
tough.
a whole 24 hours. I think I got COVID or something from the holidays. I think it was something that I got before I even left.
Mm-hmm.
We had some, I'll just say some digestive issues
Mm.
with
Yeah.
contaminated water, food, whatever it was. I kind of dodged that bullet, but 2 or 3 of my friends were struggling with that for good chunks of the trip. So there was some adversity for sure, but the trip as a whole was fantastic, and like definitely probably the most diverse trip I've ever done in terms of like, the sort of climates we experienced, the geography, all that was really variable.
Mm-hmm.
So Peru is a very diverse country in terms of the geography.
Absolutely.
The food, the culture, there's a lot going on in Peru, and it's a pretty big country. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot to see in Peru. So it was a busy. I think I was there for around 10 days. It was the December 26th through January 6th. So we were bouncing around quite a lot. But to answer your question, overall, it was fantastic. It was definitely something I would repeat again. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So some adversity, but you had a great trip. So why don't you
Yeah.
go ahead and set the scene? How many people did you go with? You said you left the day after Christmas. And
Yeah.
then where did you start? You probably flew into Lima. Did you go to
Yeah.
Cusco after that? But go ahead and set the scene for us.
Yeah, for sure. So the trip was five of us. So myself and four of my really close friends, friends from high school. So local friends.
Okay.
Um, we've kind of made a tradition of doing a trip during the winter. At least this is the second time. Last year we went to Europe. We spent a good amount of time in the Netherlands last year in Amsterdam.
That's awesome
And that
too.
was fun, but a totally different type of trip, obviously, from Peru. So we wanted to change things up a little bit this year. Um, and we decided on Peru. We were bouncing around some places in South America. We wanted to do something warmer this year,
Hmm.
with it being winter in the northern hemisphere around Christmas time. We didn't want to go somewhere cold again. We wanted to do something a little bit warmer and more vacation-y, if you will.
Yeah.
So we landed on Peru. Um, on the 26th, myself and my one really good friend from high school and his brother, they still live together. The three of us flew out of Chicago O'Hare early morning on the 26th.
Hmm.
We had the same flight going there. And then our other two friends, like I said, there were five of us total. They would come around 2 or 3 days later and meet us in Lima. They had work obligations and stuff.
Hmm.
So they couldn't, we all couldn't go at the same time, which was fine. We knew that ahead of time. So the three of us got into Lima in the evening on the 26th, like around 8 or 9 p.m. From there, we just worked it over from our hotel to our Airbnb. We did Airbnb in Lima and Cusco.
So
That's
two different ones.
yeah.
Nice.
I think with a trip with like a group like that, if you can rent somewhere out instead of whether it's staying at somebody's house or renting a house or apartment yourself, I think it's more fun, especially with friends, than excuse me, than doing like a hotel. And actually it's also more economical because
Hmm.
it's especially in like Peru has fantastic Airbnb options. Like I
Mm.
remember when we were planning our trip to Europe last year, I was like, man, this is not really like any cheaper or much better than doing a hotel. But dude, Peru is like, if you want to rent somewhere out, it's a great option. Um, so I was really happy with that.
I always like
Anyway,
the
so
feel
we,
of Airbnb too, because it feels like your little home base, you know. Whereas a
yeah,
hotel, you feel like very, like okay, you just put your suitcase on the suitcase carrier, whatever those stuff. But Airbnb, you kind of get to like settle in and be like, all right, here we are for
yeah,
however long.
yeah. And I'm kind of the travel agent of our friend group. I'm like, that's how my brain works. Very
Hmm.
like organizational, very type A personality.
Yeah.
So I had like all the Airbnbs, all our domestic flights sorted out. I booked everything. Because that's I guess kind of my role in the group. But anyway, the three of us got to our Lima Airbnb on the night of the 26th, the day after Christmas. That night, we just went out and grabbed dinner in the district we stayed in is called Miraflores.
Okay.
It's probably the most popular like tourist district for like people to stay when they're in Lima. Lima is is broken into a few districts around the city. Um, the one surrounding the airport is not touristy whatsoever, and it's not a nice place to stay. That one's called Callao, Callao. Um, yeah, that one is not somewhere that has like good hotels or restaurants or good options. But Miraflores, San Isidro, and Barranco are all south of the airport, and they're all like really nice areas. And our Airbnb was in Miraflores, so that night we just walked around the district and grabbed dinner, and from there
So did
the
you
next
have
day,
let me jump in for a second. Did you
yeah,
have like a so was this trip more casual? So like kind of just exploring the city, enjoying a few like local stops, or was it like okay, we have a few big things that we're trying to hit there. Like I would say, I
yeah,
know the Amazon was the latter half, but
yeah,
you know, that's a big thing. That's one thing in itself. So,
yeah,
what was kind of the flow of the trip?
yeah. I think it's a good idea if I kind of break it up from the start before I get into like any details,
Mm-hmm.
so to kind of give a broader picture. The first full few days, I'm not going to count all the days, but maybe for the first 3 or 4 days we were in Lima. We waited for our other two friends to meet us there. And then on the 30th, the day before New Year's, we took a flight to Cusco,
Mm,
and immediately a really early flight to Cusco because we wanted to like maximize our time together
mm-hmm.
and, you know, maximize like the daylight hours. So we took an early flight to Cusco on the 30th, and immediately upon arriving in Cusco, we took it's called a bimodal transportation where they combine the bus slash van transportation and the train to Machu Picchu.
Mm-hmm.
We did it through Inca Rail. That's the company we did.
Okay.
The two big companies to get to and from Machu Picchu are Inca Rail and Peru Rail, I think it's called. Um, so we did right when we got to Cusco, we hopped in a van at the office and took a 2 hour ride to this town called Ollantaytambo. I believe that's how you pronounce it. It's a really long word. Um, and that's where the train station is. And from there, we hopped in a train for about an hour and a half, an hour 40 minutes to Machu Picchu, and that train ride was beautiful. Like
Yeah, I bet.
I'm not, I haven't, I don't know. Have you? How many train like rides have you done traveling?
Honestly, I would love to, but really none. None besides
None.
like the
Okay.
Chicagoland Metro, which is not a
Yeah,
scenic sight at all until you
that
get to
doesn't
the
really
city.
count.
But yeah, no,
Yeah.
nothing like that though.
Yeah. No, I guess for me the only other um train ride, like proper train ride, not like commuting to the city or anything, but like
Mm-hmm.
proper train ride I'd done was a family trip when I was a kid when we took a train from Seattle to Vancouver, and that was really cool.
Yeah.
Um, I really enjoyed that. So this one, I guess was like my second big train ride,
Okay.
and it was amazing. The train that we took to Machu Picchu was called. They like separate into different classes by like how nice the train is. I got this one on discount, the tickets, and it was called the 360. So that means that it has like it has windows going along the ceiling of the train
Okay.
so that you have a broader like perspective
Oh, I
of
like
the
that.
outside.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
so
cool.
you can look up and see the mountains and the trees when you're going along in the train instead of just looking out the side windows. So that was cool. I took a lot of like pictures and videos on the train, and my dad's big into trains, so um I was sending him stuff while we were on the train ride,
Nice.
which was
That's
cool.
awesome.
Because I know he would like that stuff. So that was about an hour and a half ride to the town of Aguas Calientes, which is at the foot of Machu Picchu. Because there's a town there
Mm-hmm.
where like obviously there has to be somewhere for people to stay and food and stuff. So the town is called Aguas Calientes. Um, and
I think
from
too.
there,
I think like so. I was doing some, reading up on Machu Picchu and everything because I've been to Peru, Amazon rainforest, but I haven't been to Machu Picchu. And
yeah,
I was reading about the train ride, and oh man, like I can't imagine how cool that was. Like I was
yeah,
reading some like reviews, I watched a little video and everything. It looked so cool, and I bet that just really started building the anticipation for the experience. I don't know what it had been like the few days
yeah.
before in Lima, but that's like rainforest, like cloud forest.
Yeah, Lima was cool. I mean, you know, when speaking for you and I specifically, like when we go on these trips, the city stuff is kind of just like a byproduct or like a launching point
Hmm.
to go do like the fun outdoor stuff. And Lima was cool. So this is my second Latin American country.
Okay.
My first experience, which we've talked about a little bit on the show, and Jake and I have talked about it a lot together, is when I went to Costa Rica in the spring of 2024, so last spring. And Lima compared to San Jose, which is the capital of Costa Rica, Lima, there's definitely way more to do.
Oh yeah.
Like, yeah, way more
Like
sights to see.
touristy wise, or
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's not like it's still not very touristy. Like you
Okay.
compare it to countries or cities in Europe, and like as far as the touristy level, it's still not much. But more definitely much bigger and more to do than San Jose in Costa Rica. San Jose is literally just kind of like a jumping point to get to the rest of the country. Like people don't hang around in San Jose. Lima, there is stuff to do though. Like you can spend a few days there, and um, the one thing that I did like in Lima that we really enjoyed was the Plaza de Armas, which is like the big city square
Hmm.
in the older part of Lima, and that was beautiful. I took a few like pictures and videos there.
Is that where it has? Because I was there too. We stayed in Lima like one day when we came in, and then one day when we were
Yeah.
leaving, just at like at a hotel there. And was that where it has like the Peru by the waterfall, or by like a fountain, like a Peru statue? Just it just spells
There's
out Peru.
I don't know, I don't remember like anything spelling out Peru, but there is
Okay.
a big fountain in the middle of was it like a big square?
Yeah, it was like kind of like like a local shopping area too. Like you go into um people who make their, own like, own art and stuff like that. And you just go in there
Yeah.
and kind of buy stuff from them. Um,
Was it was it like surrounded by churches and government buildings?
no, that
Okay, then that wasn't the
yeah,
same
probably
one.
probably different spots.
Yeah, this one is it's called Plaza de Armas in Lima, and it's the big square, and they
Okay,
have like a big government building and a big church. It's huge. Probably like the biggest like gathering area in the city. But
okay.
Lima was big. Um getting getting welcomed back by like crazy Latin American driving was fun. They
Yeah.
drive for anybody that hasn't been to Latin America. Um, I mean, I wasn't driving there obviously, but riding around in the cars in Latin America is an experience.
Yeah, just like
Like,
don't watch. Just like
yeah,
don't watch ahead of you. Just like look
and I mean
around,
like
trust that you'll get there.
yeah, and I don't really care because it's not like it's not my car or anything. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like, you know, the driver can do whatever they please with their own car. Like that's their liability
It's
and
just
their
a
cost to
different set of
cover.
rules. It's a different, I like the
Yeah.
honking and like the
Oh, yeah.
everything. It's just, I remember that too. I was like, sheesh, and like stop and
Yeah.
go and everything. It's like,
Dude,
okay.
like here in the States, we never like the only time you use your horn is if you like you really have a reason. If
Hmm. Or you're a
like if
road
you
rager.
have to, if something is like unexpected, if somebody's like crossing the road or something and you honk, or if like obviously somebody cuts you off really bad. But it has to be for like a very particular strong reason. But in Peru, they
Oh yeah, just
they
laying
honk
on it.
constantly.
Yeah.
They honk constantly. For anybody that goes to Latin America, especially Peru, because I was just there. So I don't know what the rest of Latin America is like if it's the same, but just know that like pedestrians don't have a right of way when you're crossing the street,
Yeah.
especially in Peru. So just be warned. Like if you're crossing the street, you have to make sure there are no cars coming because they don't you can't expect them to stop for you. They
Yeah.
don't the cars have the right of way in Peru.
100%.
So just know that if you're hanging around a city,
Yeah,
uh,
learn from
in
the
Peru.
locals. Don't try to be a
Yeah,
know-it-all when you go there. But okay,
yeah,
so I interrupted you. You're at the base of the mountain, right? You're in the city, or in the town. What was it? The long
yeah,
name.
yeah. The town of
Let's
Aguas Calientes.
yeah, let's go back.
Yeah,
Let's jump back there.
yeah. No, and that's okay because I kind of skipped over Lima anyways.
Hmm.
So it was fine to go back and talk
Okay.
about it a little bit. I
Yeah.
didn't have much to say anyways, but definitely some like kind of travel tips for anybody that goes, just
Mm-hmm.
to kind of be aware of, I think is good, like common knowledge. Um, but yeah, so the town at the base of Machu Picchu is called Aguas Calientes. Um, and that's where the train pulls into. That's where the railway ends, as far as I know. That's where it stops. Um, so we got there on the 30th in the afternoon. So we had the whole rest of the day to kind of get prepared for the following morning, which we had the first slot to go up to Machu Picchu, the first time slot, which was 6 a.m.
Nice.
So the rest of the day we just checked into our hotel, got prepped, got some dinner. At this point, I got sick in Lima, which was good timing because there was other stuff that I was looking forward to for the end of the trip. So I had already kind of got over my sickness, but this is like kind of when others started getting sick slash having some stomach issues.
Yep. Yep.
So like one of the five of us was kind of out of commission that night, so like didn't join us for dinner. Just needed to rest before the following morning. But we all go to bed pretty early that night because we had just took a 6 a.m. flight from Lima to Cusco that same day. So we're all really tired. And we want to get some good rest, obviously, before we do Machu Picchu. So a 6 a.m. slot at Machu Picchu. We get up around 4:35, and how you get up is you can walk apparently up the
Mm-hmm.
road, but I have no idea how long that would take because that road ended up being longer and much more windy than I envisioned. And we got our bus tickets the day before, and the buses run every 15 minutes up and down. But we have to get on our bus at 5:30, the first buses, because our time slot is at 6, like I
Mm-hmm.
said. So we're at the train station in Aguas Calientes, waiting for our bus around 5:30. It's very, very cloudy this morning. I should also kind of preface that our our winter obviously is their summer because we're in opposite hemispheres. So at this time of year, their summer is also the wet season. So not a great time for like Machu Picchu because it's very cloudy up there,
Yeah.
with all the precipitation. And but also it's kind of a double-edged sword because it's also a little bit less crowded, less
Mm-hmm.
touristy, less tourism, less tourists in general.
Is
So
it like a rainforest at the bottom too, or is it
not not like it kind of reminded me of a cloud forest. Like
okay?
I had been to cloud forest in Costa Rica. But it's not like a proper cloud forest. Like it doesn't have the same flora and ecosystem
Okay.
as a cloud forest, but like very lush. Just not like you're not going to see like huge trees necessarily and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Although there are trees for sure.
I
It's
know
just not exactly
surrounding
the
it,
same.
like if you go farther away, there it does get into that cloud forest, like
Yeah.
that more continuous cloud forest. But I was just curious what it was like at the base. But
Yeah, it was definitely way more like lush and green than I expected it to be. Like
okay,
there's still the plants and trees are still covering everything. It's covering all the mountains and everything.
okay,
So it was really pretty. And anyway, we take the bus up to Machu Picchu, which is about like a 20-minute ride, and that's also a pretty crazy ride.
I bet.
Um, because at some points, you're riding right along the side of the like mountain roads that are winding up the mountains. And for most of it, there aren't any guardrails or anything. So um, for some of us that were more freaked out, they were getting kind of picked on by like the others. So
Mm-hmm.
like we were having a bit of fun going up there. I was kind of like we were kind of poking fun at one of my friends. I was definitely getting a little bit freaked out by the heights.
I was reading
Um,
that 1 in every 10 buses falls down. Nah, I'm just messing.
Yeah, I know. Well, you
That's a
should have told me
horrible
that
joke.
before.
But what's
You
that?
should have told me that before.
I
It would
know.
have been good
Yeah,
if you told me before, not
I
now.
know.
Because
You already
obviously,
made it. Doesn't matter now. You're
Yeah, I already made
one of
it.
the nine, or yeah, but just messing. That's not a true
Yeah,
fact.
I'm one of the. I was on one of the buses that survived.
Hmm.
I was one of the survivors.
I have seen those. I was looking up that windy road. It is slim too.
Oh,
Like
did
it
you?
is slim. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And you kind of got to like make way when another bus is coming in the opposite direction. But I think because we were going, we were the first slot. We saw like one bus come down, and it was probably the bus that was just ahead of us. We might have been the second bus going up,
Okay.
so we didn't have to deal with that too much, the cross traffic. Um, and then after 20 minutes, you get to the top, and you go through like kind of like a gate if you were to go like to a theme park or something. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? Like people checking tickets and your passport. You bring your passport too.
You get a stamp for it,
And
like a Machu
no,
Picchu. Ah.
no, no, I did research beforehand, and apparently there's like a separate booth or table you have to go to get
Mm,
your passport stamped. Um, and I didn't even like think about it when I was up there.
yeah,
You know what I
that's
meant?
fair. You get
Like,
the excitement of everything.
yeah, that wasn't like uh that wasn't a priority of mine when we were up there. But you can do it. You just have
Hmm.
to go somewhere else, I guess. So we got there at 6, and there's a decent amount of people, but you're all kind of like funneling in, and some people are walking quickly. We kind of took our time because we all kind of agreed that um we wanted to take our time, and like you know we actually weren't leaving until 2 in the afternoon that same day, so we had no rush whatsoever.
Yeah.
We planned on staying a few hours, which we did. And you don't have to, technically, I think you're supposed to have a guide at Machu Picchu, but it is not enforced whatsoever. Like
Mm.
maybe half the people had guides, and we opted not to have a guide because we were going to go at our own pace and we wanted to spend a lot of time there. For some parts, especially in the beginning when it was really clouded and there wasn't much to look at, I kind of wish we had a guide, because
Yeah.
then we would have got some some little tidbits of information and some information on the history and the culture of the place. So that would have been cool in hindsight to have a guide, at least in the beginning when there wasn't much to look at.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it was really cloudy when we get up there. I have my camera. I took my Canon with. So this is the first time I bring out my camera the whole trip. I brought it for Machu Picchu and for the Amazon.
Hmm.
So I break out the camera at Machu Picchu, and it's really cloudy, and you're kind of waiting for like these little windows of opportunity for the clouds to pass through the site and then to snap some pictures. So at the beginning, it was kind of like walking up um above the site to like a viewpoint, but also kind of stopping here and there. They have like platforms as you go along that you
Okay.
can stop at and look at like the postcard view of the site, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Where you have the ruins down below and then you have the mountains in the background. Um so we're kind of like stopping here and there, taking pictures. We took like a few group pictures here and there of the 5 of us. And then as the morning progressed, the clouds did clear up a little bit, so
Hmm.
I kept getting better and better pictures, and it got to the point where I was like happy with the pictures that I got from the higher vantage point. So we started working our way down into the ruins, and I think we took circuit 2. There are like 3 circuits and multiple courses within each circuit, so we were like the lower circuit 2, I
Okay.
believe. And so we had the opportunity to walk amongst the ruins down
That's
at
really
that
cool.
same level, which was amazing. And what I will say is I was a little bit concerned that it would be disappointing with like the cloud cover and not being able to get like that postcard shot. I was a little bit concerned going up that there wouldn't be much else to do, but I was completely wrong. It definitely exceeded all our expectations in the sense that there's so much to look at once you get there, especially once you go down to the level of the ruins,
Hmm.
because um, you can't, from up top, you can't see all like the the meanders in the ruins and like all the places that you can't explore from up top. You can't see that. So once you get down, you're like, wow, there's a lot more to look at than I initially expected. And everything is beautiful, like not only within the ruins, but also you look around outside the site, and you're surrounded by like the mountains, and everything's covered in the greenery, and there's clouds covering the peaks and everything. So everything is beautiful. Like you can look around and there's not like any eyesores whatsoever, which is great.
Yeah.
Because I feel like at a lot of like sites like that, there's probably a few like eyesores where you're like, yeah, I wouldn't want that in a picture, or it's not like pleasant to look at. But everything at Machu Picchu is beautiful. Like,
Yeah, I read it's like specific. So it's obviously one of the, most uh, traveled to archaeological sites in the world and most
yeah,
preserved because it was, hidden for so long. I
yeah,
mean, it wasn't really discovered until I think 1911 it was by a Yale explorer. But regardless, um, I read too that they like specifically don't put a lot of signage out, and it's really meant to be what it was like when the Incan Empire, right, was there. Yeah. So, oh, I can't hear you. Bump your mic.
sorry, I muted myself real
No, you're
quick.
good. You're good.
But I'm really glad you brought up the lack of signage, because now that you say that, like, that was 100% true, and it definitely adds to like the immersion
Yeah,
of walking
authenticity
around.
of it.
Yeah, the authenticity for sure. Um, and also, like as you were saying, with a bit of the history, not even the Spanish discovered it when the conquistadors were moving through Latin America. So that was pretty cool. Like it truly was hidden, like you said, until the uh, early 20th century, when
Mm-hmm.
like the West, um, as like a broad term, kind of discovered it. So that very authentic, like you said, and yeah, like the lack of signage definitely adds to that authenticity of the place. Um, so we walked around there for about, I don't know, a good 3.5 hours. So we really took our time. And like I said, the cloud cover got better and improved as the morning went on and as the sun came out. And we made our way down at about the 3-4 hour mark, and it started to rain at that point. So we got
Mm-hmm.
really lucky with our timing, because I don't have like a hood or any special equipment for my camera, so I can't have my camera out in the rain
Yeah.
because it can get ruined by the rain.
Also, I feel like
Um,
that bus ride down would have been a little more scary in the rain.
yeah, yeah. It actually it started raining literally right when we got back into town.
Nice. Nice.
So it was good timing overall. And Machu Picchu as a whole, I wholly recommend it for anybody that's interested in it. I like I said, it was not the highlight necessarily going into my trip, because I had the Amazon, and to me that is top three like bucket list overall.
Mm-hmm.
But even with that said, like I said, as a group, we all came to consensus that it exceeded all of our expectations. And the big thing for me, like I said, was everything is like picturesque and beautiful to look at. Like not only the ruins, not only the site, but the whole surrounding area is, you could. I spent just as much time, I feel, looking at the ruins as I did like the surrounding mountains and then the river cutting through the mountains. So that's the big takeaway I had from Machu Picchu. Just
Well, I think too, like, so I obviously was doing a little, research and preparation for this talk because we hadn't talked and I didn't know much about Machu Picchu beforehand. But one of the questions I mean, and if anyone wants to go like see what it looks like, you can Google it. It looks
Mhm.
amazing. Like I'm so jealous that you
Yeah,
got to go, and now it's on my radar. When I went to Peru back in what 22, I think, 2022, it was part of the Project Dragonfly program, so like we were just going to the rainforest, it wasn't part of it. But as far
yeah,
as like man-made things to go see in the world, that's now definitely on my radar. Like I'd love to go see it. Looks absolutely incredible.
yeah.
But it's one of the most, like I said earlier, traveled to tourist spots in the world, archaeological tourist spots in the world. Do you know, I had heard rumblings of this, and I was talking to Maddie, and she had heard the same thing. Like Is it being monitored? Like I heard that they might shut it down to tourism because it's starting to kind of yeah, do you know on that?
Yeah, I only know what I read from uh, a guide, a Peru travel guide
Hmm.
that is like a 2025 edition. So it's the newest edition of a travel guide to Peru you can get. And I read something similar about maybe not shutting it down completely, but significantly reducing the number of tourists that they let through the site.
Yeah.
So that, to my knowledge, is true. And I don't know what the current situation with that is and where it's going to um, end up in the short term. But I did read something similar for sure.
Yeah, and I was reading too that like it's one of the reasons is because people are not exactly doing what you're supposed to do as a tourist. You know, they're kind of going
Yeah.
off path. Maybe they're touching things that they shouldn't.
Yeah.
And, you know, it just goes for anywhere you go. Like, if you're going to be a
Yeah.
tourist, going to a new place that's, you know, unfamiliar to you, has history and culture and, you know, wildlife and everything, just, you know, stay on the path. Don't touch
Yeah.
the, you know, things that were made in the 1400s, you know, just like let it be, let it enjoy the moment. You don't have to like, you know, put your, you know, touch on everything. Um, but yeah, no,
Yeah.
I
And
was
I
just
think
curious about that. What's up?
Yeah, no, I think as a general rule of thumb for anybody like traveling, and I didn't make this up, this is I think like a standard
Hmm.
practice that people should follow, but like I think it's a good idea to leave somewhere you went the same, if not better. So don't, like Jake said, don't obviously go there and take things or
Yeah, just
vandalize anything because other people around the world or wherever it is, like it doesn't matter how big the site is, like other people want to see that too.
take your
And
memories, take your pictures,
yeah,
take your, you know, experiences. Don't take the and don't, you know, damage the, you know, wildlife, the paths, everything. Just, you know, be a respectful tourist for anywhere you
yeah,
go.
because we want to keep these places unique, so generations and generations can appreciate them because they're special and unique for a reason, obviously. So I think we should all keep it that way. And obviously, I think a lot of what I'm saying is common sense, but not everybody necessarily follows those same ethics and practices when they're visiting places. But yeah, it's a it's a spectacle for sure, and it's one of the seven wonders of the world.
Hmm.
So we were kind of discussing that, and this kind of gets back on track to us heading down. We were discussing that on our way back down, like ranking the what seven wonders we'd want to see. And for all of us, Machu Picchu fell into like the top three, even though most of us hadn't been to like other wonders. I haven't been to any other wonders in the world, I don't think, because we don't have any in the US, I don't think.
Yeah, I would have to look them up. I did know that was one of them.
It's Chichen Itza, Machu Picchu, the pyramids,
Mm,
Great Wall, Christ the Redeemer, and Petra in Jordan,
okay.
and Taj Mahal.
Okay.
Those are the
Yeah,
seven.
yeah, that makes
So
sense.
that was my first of the seven wonders.
Hey man,
But
check it off. That's a like
oh
a, you know, one of
yeah,
seven. Now you get to go do the other six.
yeah. But dude, like based on what I can envision and like assume my experience would be like at the others, I think Machu Picchu would still hold its spot in like a top three of those seven. It was, like I said, exceeded all our expectations. So very worthwhile. And for anybody that does want to go, just know that, especially if you're going in the peak tourist season, which is like, I think is like our early summer
Hmm.
ish, sometime in the summer. Just know that you have to buy your tickets ahead of time to be admitted into the site. And that's done through like a Peruvian government website. So just know that ahead of time that you have to buy tickets in advance. So it wasn't an issue for us because we were kind of going during a slower part of the travel season, but just a word of advice for anybody that does want to go to Machu Picchu someday.
Yeah, sweet. I have one more quick question about Machu Picchu, and then we'll
Sure.
have a kind of segue to the next part of it. But did you see any
Yeah.
wildlife there? Any wildlife up on the mountain?
Saw a hummingbird.
A hummingbird. Okay, yeah, that's
Yeah,
wildlife.
that was cool. Yeah, a nice forest green hummingbird. I
Mm.
took a few really bad pictures of it with my
Yeah,
camera,
dude, those things are quick.
but Oh no, I'm sorry. That wasn't not the only wildlife that was up there. I almost completely glazed over it. There was a group of llamas on in the ruins in the site, um, up on the mountain,
Did
which
you
was
know
really
that they were
cool.
brought there for tourism?
I'd assume as much, but can you confirm that?
I can. Yeah. Well,
Okay,
maybe I should fact check myself again, but that was as part of the research I was doing. It was like
that sounds right.
the llamas and alpacas are. So this is Machu Picchu is about 7,000 feet of elevation, right? It's even
Yeah,
lower than Cusco, which I was surprised to read.
yeah, significantly lower.
Yeah. But llamas and alpacas in that region typically are like, I think 13,000 feet of elevation. Maybe I'm wrong, but um, I was reading that they brought them there for like the aesthetic of the tourism. Like, oh, here's llamas and alpacas, because I like that's what I would think too.
Yeah,
Going there, like that's what I would see. I don't know why I'm
that.
thinking of like Emperor's New Groove, the Disney movie,
Yeah,
Cusco,
yeah,
like that kind of
yeah,
thing. But
yeah.
um,
100%. No, I can. I like I said, I assumed as much
mhm.
because you go up there and it's like, how did they get here? You know what I mean?
But they are a high
They're
elevation
they
animal too.
Yeah, that's true. They are, but I mean like in the sense that um knowing what I know of like the ecology of alpacas and llamas,
Yeah.
it's kind of like that like innate
Yeah,
speculation of
you're
like
like,
why are they
I don't know
here?
if this is right. Yeah.
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 And
No, I
they
feel
they
that.
have like ear tags and stuff. So
Mm,
that's another kind of giveaway. So thanks for confirming that because
pretty
I
sure I
couldn't
confirmed it. Pretty sure. Maybe I'll
I
double back to it, but
I'm dude, I'm pretty confident that that's right cuz that's kind of what I was thinking the whole time. Um and just a note like with what you brought up there, when we were coming from Cusco, so still really high up,
mhm.
probably like 10, 12,000 feet, we did come across some, I can't, they're not wild alpacas, but they're in definitely in like their natural range,
Yeah,
and we were at a much higher elevation.
that's cool.
um yeah, so I can anecdotally confirm that's sort of like a fact or speculation that you brought up because that's a
Sweet,
great point.
sweet. Yeah, yeah, no, I was just
Good.
curious on that. Okay, so if I've been paying attention correctly, this was New Year's Eve, right?
This
Uh,
is New Year's Eve.
yeah.
Yep.
So did you guys do anything or in Peru for the New Year's, or no? The New Year, I should say.
So so we get back to Cusco on New Year's Eve in the evening, and one, we're all exhausted,
Oh,
but
I
like
bet
that
early
usually doesn't,
morning. Yeah.
yeah, that usually like that's still not an excuse because that doesn't ever like really stop us. But unfortunately, one of my friends got pretty bad altitude sickness
Mm,
in Cusco. He actually had to go to a hospital or a clinic
jeez.
because he actually ended up getting pulmonary edema, which
I don't even know what that
is
is.
it's a condition that's like induced or caused by altitude sickness, and it's not terribly uncommon. A lot of tourists that travel to like Cusco specifically, which is almost 12,000 feet elevation, a lot of tourists actually deal with altitude sickness. So it wasn't something we were completely unaware of. But that night, New Year's, my one friend was New Year's Eve rather. My one friend was pretty ran down from the altitude. Another one was just coming on with some sort of sickness. Um, Most of us, to some extent, had some stomach problems at
Yeah.
that point in the trip. So we were really banged up on New Year's. So we ended up watching Silence of the Lambs together
Oh.
on New Year's Eve.
Hey, well, that you won't forget that, right? That's a
Yeah.
unique experience.
Oh, dude, it's a great movie. Honestly,
It is
it
a great
was.
movie. It is a great
It's
movie.
one of my friends' favorites. Some of like most of us are pretty big horror movie fans.
Hmm.
So I hadn't seen it. So like I said, we were all super run down, and so while we're in Cusco and it hits midnight and there's like fireworks exploding all around us, we're just sitting in our family room in our Airbnb watching Silence of the Lambs, just kind of
Dude, that's so
chilling.
funny. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
What?
hey, that's one way to celebrate the new year. New movie, right?
No,
New movie
yeah.
for you.
I didn't regret it. And like I said, we were dealing with some adversity health
Hmm.
wise that was kind of unavoidable. So that was more so out of necessity that we
Yeah, and
like
the
laid low.
priority, you're trying to get the most out of your trip, so resting
Yeah.
up and not going out and drinking and staying up too late and all that,
Yeah.
allowing yourself to recover for, which was my segue. Are we getting to the Amazon? Is that where we're at now? Getting there
Um,
close? Oh, almost. Okay.
we're right there.
On the
We're right
cusp.
there.
On the cusp.
We spent yeah, and in Cusco, it was like kind of a recovery period because, like you said, when you're on a trip, especially a trip that you just probably spent quite a bit of money on, and you
Hmm.
really want to maximize it, you do take opportunities to like rest and recover, especially when you are not feeling well. So that kind of was what Cusco was for us. At least some of us was a time to recover and kind of get over some illnesses and altitude sickness, whatever it was we were dealing with.
Yeah.
So we had about like a solid 2 days together as the five of us to explore Cusco. Cusco was great. I preferred it slightly to Lima because it was more quaint and more quiet than Lima. Not obviously not nearly as big. Lima's the capital, a big like metropolitan or cosmopolitan style city,
Hmm.
but Cusco is very quaint. It's nestled up in the mountains. Very uniform like architecture and style of buildings. They all have like these beautiful. I don't know if terracotta is the right word, but like these tiles on the roofs of the buildings. I'm not an expert in like design or buildings or anything, but really beautiful buildings and more quaint and quiet, which I prefer.
Hmm. Yeah.
I was the noise and like the hustle of staying in a city does kind of get to me at some points, especially when I'm on vacation. Like that's not ideal for me
Yeah,
necessarily.
you're leaving that. You're trying to go to something else.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So Cusco was kind of a nice middle ground in terms of getting to um, a more quiet and secluded place, which ended up being the Amazon. So it was a nice middle ground, a nice transition, some good recovery time. Um, two of the five of us, not including myself, obviously, went home from Cusco. You know, we have to get some of us have to get back to work and can't get the same time off as the others. So um, three of the five of us were actually supposed to go home from Cusco, but unfortunately, my one friend that got the altitude sickness had to push his flight back 2 days. Because when you do have that edema, it's dangerous to take long flights back, especially when you're changing elevation so dramatically.
Yeah.
So he ended up sticking around longer than usual, or longer than planned, rather. Um, but anyways, after 2 or 3 days in Cusco, now it's time for my friend and myself, so just the two of us, for our Amazon excursion, and that would be on the 3rd of January. Um, so we take a flight from Cusco, which just to kind of like visualize the layout of Peru. Lima's on the coast, which is the Pacific, so the west coast, and Cusco is more or less directly east of Lima, an hour plane ride.
Okay.
And then our entry point into the Amazon is the town of Puerto Maldonado,
Mm.
which is the southern Amazon. And the Amazon as a whole, it would be like the southwest Amazon. Um,
You know what? I am so wrong. That's where we stayed in our hotel, Puerto
I know
Maldonado. Yeah.
I found out that that's where you went to
Oh, did you?
when
Oh,
I got there. Yep.
okay.
Sandoval Lake. Yep.
Yeah, like well, I mean, as far as like when I was asking you about staying in Lima, I was trying to think about it when I asked you. We flew in to Lima and then we drove to Puerto
Yeah.
Maldonado, stayed in a town there, and then we went to our rainforest like destination. Like we were in the rainforest the whole time. But
Was so you didn't fly from Lima?
now it's getting all foggy. Um, did we?
I bet you did fly
Yeah.
because
Where'd you fly
driving
into?
from Lima.
Into Puerto Maldonado?
Well, well, Cusco was like an in between point.
Mm.
So it's an from Lima to Cusco is an hour east, and then from Cusco to Puerto Maldonado is a 35-minute plane ride east again.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. I did because
We
now I
definitely
remember.
didn't drive.
No,
The
yeah, we had
drive would
a
have been days from Lima.
yeah. So I wasn't thinking about my trip in preparation for this, but yes, I do remember
Yeah.
now because when I flew into Lima, once I got there, I had a 9 hour layover in the Lima airport, and it was
Oh, jeez.
overnight, and I was just I had my like bag strapped to me. I was just slumped on the bed.
Yeah,
But
that's
yeah,
brutal.
sorry. Proceed with your story.
Yeah.
Puerto
So
Maldonado.
we 35-minute plane ride from Cusco to Puerto Maldonado, which is again east because Peru is kind of dissected by the Andes. So the west of the Andes is the Pacific and a much drier climate. And then, of course, on the other side, east of the Andes, is the Amazon.
Hmm.
And Jake, I don't know how read up you are on this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the Amazon is 60% of Peru and only contains 5% of the population. So that just kind of puts like the scope of the Amazon into perspective. It covers a massive chunk of the country, just over half of it, if my memory serves me correctly.
Yeah, I'm
But
not sure, so I'm gonna have to trust you there.
I do believe I read that when I was researching
Okay.
the country. So we leave around noon from Cusco on the 3rd, and we got there. Our plane was late, which is something I also learned about air travel in the country, domestic flights. It seems like being like planes coming in late and being delayed is not uncommon.
Yeah.
So we got in a little bit late, and as you're flying in, once you start descending for the landing, um, and you break through the clouds, you get to see like what's the Amazon, and
Yeah.
that's my first. This is where like
Yeah, the heart start.
my heart rate starts going up a
You
little
sent
bit.
me the picture and I was like, dude, enjoy it.
Yeah,
Enjoy it, man. It's
yeah.
awesome.
So the pictures I sent Jake, because obviously they're not popping up for anybody that's watching this. Maybe we will put
Yeah, I
them in
might be
there. I
able
don't
to I
know.
might be able to put it in there. We'll see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see what we can do.
If you have good
Um,
camera pictures, I'll definitely be able to put some stuff in here in
yeah,
post production,
but
but yeah.
the pictures I sent Jake were one of us on our descent, and it's a picture of the forest just completely covering the land, and then of a river cutting through the forest. And my one friend, and this is a great question. Like, it's a great question that I'm sure many have when they are traveling to the Amazon. He asked me, "Why is the water that color? Like, why is it brown? You can't see anything." Um, and I'm not going to get very scientific about this. I'm not an expert whatsoever on this, but it is because of the sediment and the sediment load
Hmm.
that travels through the rivers in the Amazon.
It is very
So
murky water for
very,
sure. For sure.
very murky, and you can see it from the plane. I mean, it's just I don't know what color you describe it. Maybe like a beigeish
Hmm.
brown color,
Yeah.
but loaded with sediment that's traveling through the river, and that's why the visibility is so poor in the water. So I sent Jake a picture of that. And then when you land in the Puerto Maldonado airport, it's the smallest airport I've ever been to.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Oh,
Yeah.
here's another thing that happened during mine. My freaking bag got lost when we got there. So I'm
Oh
in the
no.
yes, yes. It had not been transferred over from Lima. So we had to
Oh,
go to our hotel and all I had was just my like carry-on and I didn't have my
yeah.
entire suitcase. So luckily and I didn't have anyone there when we first got to Puerto Maldonado. Again, a very small
Yeah.
airport. Second smallest I've been in. The one in Tanzania was smaller, but um
Yeah.
and I remember going to the
Wow.
hotel and
Smaller
I'm
than
like,
that.
I don't have anything. Like, and I'm in the rainforest. I didn't even have I had
Mhm.
my boots on, but I didn't have like, my other shoes and everything like that. But luckily it came in the next day and we were able to go back and grab it. But
Yeah.
so I'm wondering really quick. We're at
Yep.
50 or almost at 54 minutes. And so I'm sure this is going to be a hearty discussion, right? Because we both have a lot. Do we break this up into two? Do we jump on the fly
I
and
if we're almost at the hour mark, I think it would be wise for us to break this up into a two-parter.
I agree.
Um,
I agree. Just
because
because I think it's going to be such a fun, kind of engaging conversation between us
yeah,
because like we've both been there, and I think we're going to have a lot to add. So I wouldn't want to, make people listen to a 2 hour or deter people from getting to maybe our favorite part of,
yeah,
you know,
and the Amazon section is where Jake and I are definitely gonna like nerd out,
yeah, we're going to geek
and
out. Uh-huh,
we're gonna
100%.
talk about wildlife and the river and everything. So I think that's a good call. Not planned, but
Not planned. Nope.
a very wise call on your end for sure.
Well, and I think this is cool because you just got back from this trip, like we said,
Yeah,
a couple of days ago, and we haven't had the opportunity to even talk about it yet. So I didn't know, even your length of stay. To be honest, we haven't talked since that. We said Merry Christmas and stuff, but yeah.
yeah, and
So go
this
ahead.
is a great way for us to like talk through the trip because unlike our other episodes or like the previous one when you recalled your Baja trip, like this, like you said, is very fresh in memory. And the
Hmm.
beauty of it is, like Jake said, like we haven't talked about this whatsoever.
Yeah.
This is all new to us as far as like me telling Jake about the trip. So it might be pretty in depth as far as what we're talking about as because Jake's gonna be asking me a lot of questions as
Yeah,
we
and I don't
would
want to
whether
hold
we're
my
recording or
questions
not.
back because we're at like an hour and
Yeah.
45 minutes or anything. Like I want to jump in. So,
Yeah, totally.
so do you have any concluding, so we're going to separate it. We'll do the Amazon next time, but do you have any
Yeah.
concluding kind of wrapping up thoughts to talk about as far as Lima, Cusco, and Machu Picchu went?
I would just say kind of as a general travel advice or overview is Lima. There's quite a bit to do if you're interested in spending time in a capital city in Latin America. Um, was enjoyable for sure. Cusco definitely more quaint, more quiet, and perhaps like more authentic as far as being in the Andes. And Machu Picchu is fantastic. Like I said, exceeded all our expectations, and it's absolutely beautiful. So, up until the point that we go to the Amazon, the trip has gone very well, and yeah, really thoroughly enjoyed it. And we're going to end this part one around
Mm-hmm.
here, and we're going to save the entire Amazon section for a part two because I think it warrants and deserves a part two.
Yeah, completely agree. Well, Dean, loved. Welcome back. Welcome back. Good to see you. Good to talk
Thanks,
to you
man.
again. Thank you for everyone for listening to this episode of Chasing Wild. It's a really fun opportunity to talk about Dean's recent trip to Peru. Again, we went over his spots in Lima, Cusco, and Machu Picchu, a place that everyone should go to. So, our next episode, we will be breaking down a little bit of his trip in the Amazon rainforest. I'll be giving some of my insights on my trip to the rainforest as well. I went back in, like I said, 2022. So, thanks for joining in, and make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. We'll see you next time on the Chase Wild podcast. Peace out.
Thank you.